This episode is sponsored by Zingari Man, but more on them later. Hello and welcome to a little mini-sode of That's What People Do. This was a bit of a spur of the moment one, and you're joined by me, James Kay, and as always, Ryan McGowan. How you doing, Ryan?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about today's topic, mainly because it's doing the rounds in socials, and obviously we have quite a personal connection to this story. We've seen a lot of it happening. So, yeah, what are we talking about?
We are talking, we're going back to Whitechapel, 1888. And I know that off the top of my head without even looking at any notes. That's how much we speak about this. We're talking about Jack the Ripper again, but we're not talking about Jack the Ripper and the case as a whole. If you want to go check that out, we've got an episode on it with Terry. It's amazing. And also, we've got a documentary on YouTube now, which is now available for everyone. So search That's What People Do on YouTube, and you'll find it. I think it's like an hour and a half. It's genuinely really insightful.
Yeah.
If I do say so myself. But there's been a resurgence of a particular Jack the Ripper theory recently, and it's been doing the rounds, and we wanted to just address it, I suppose. So if you follow all of the big social media pages like Puberty, Lad Bible, all of those, I even saw News Nation doing it this morning, then you've probably noticed that they've done an article, because when one media outlet does an article, everyone does it. It's just how the media works. They have revealed, and I use quotation marks there, that Aaron Kosminski is Jack the Ripper. The worry of when social media outlets do this is that people will just blindly believe it and not question it further. So we want to throw our hat in the ring and say that Jack the Ripper is not a closed case.
Hey.
Definitively not a closed case.
Hot take.
Fuck you, Lad Bible.
Yeah. You know what,
so let's...
Sorry to interrupt. You were saying, like, oh, people blindly just believe it. And like, some of the comments, obviously, we've been putting videos out on TikTok about it, some stuff to, promote our documentary with Terry Wade and Jack the Ripper. And loads of the comments are just being like, oh, I'm so glad that I've lived to see this case solved. And it's like, bro.
Oh, mate. There was one comment yesterday of being like, oh, they solved it 3 days ago. I wanted to put my head through a fucking wall, because no, they haven't.
Yeah.
But then, like, the comment section is hilarious because everyone comes in going, they've solved it. It's this person. Everyone's different. Yeah. So, well, they clearly fucking haven't then, have they, if you just read the comment underneath you?
So, yeah, let's look into this a little bit, shall we? Aaron Kosminski, what's going on with that?
Well, this is I just want to state right now that we are not saying we have solved it. We are... Well, I am. I don't know about you. I'm on the side of no one knows. And I think that's a completely fair place to sit.
Yes.
So we're not going to give you a definitive answer, but we're going to tell you why the definitive answers you have heard are perhaps a bit misleading.
Yeah. I quite like these definitive answers, but I like that from the get-go, we have established camps that I don't necessarily think it is Aaron Kosminski. I don't necessarily have anything to say why it is not Aaron Kosminski, but I think that what we're about to look at in terms of the evidence is not strong enough to say Aaron Kosminski is of that, Jack the Ripper. So for me, I'm also like, it's still out there.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's go to Mitre Square, which isn't Whitechapel, but basically is. It's a few roads over. On one of our videos, because Terry says it's not Whitechapel, we had a few Londoners. And when you tell a Londoner about London, they have to give you their opinion. It's just what Londoners do. They're like, oh, it basically fucking is. It's not. Technically, it's not.
It's part of the city.
But it's right next to it, so fuck off. Catherine Eddowes has just been discovered by PC Edward Watkins, and the condition of her body is appalling. Jack the Ripper has slit her throat, he's cut her open, he's taken out her uterus, he's removed a kidney, and then he's targeted the face. He's cut her nose off and he's gashed her face, and then later on in the mortuary, part of her ear fell off. So that just goes to show that she was pretty brutally murdered. But who killed Catherine Eddowes, part of the 5 women, or more if you look further into the case? People say it was Aaron Kosminski, and this Kate, we're going to talk about Catherine Eddowes because this is the murder that ties Aaron Kosminski to it. That's the theory. He doesn't really have evidence with the others. So he's a name that's been flying around right now. And I think it's important to note that Ripperologists always disagree, which is why this case is so interesting, because people who have devoted their lives to finding out the truth still don't know. Even if they tell you that they know, I don't think anyone can be ever 100%, apart from one man, which we'll talk about in a bit. But anyway, in our podcast with Terry Wade, our resident Ripperologist, he sort of sighed and laughed when we brought up Kosminski's name. Like, there was a very much, fucking hell, here we go.
Here we go.
Sort of air to him. I've never met another Ripperologist, but when it comes to Jack the Ripper, I just trust Terry completely.
Yeah. Well, I think we even asked Terry on the episode what got him into learning about Jack the Ripper, and it was from, obviously, like we said on the show, we worked with Terry at the dungeon, and there is a Jack the Ripper show in that place, and it's not. It's historically accurate to a point, and I think as far as the story I had always heard was because Terry used to be quite important in that venue, they asked him to write his own script on the Jack the Ripper case, and it was too factual. It was too in depth, and they went, we can't have that. Let's take that out. Let's take that out. And he then basically said, he was like, it kind of bears no real resemblance to the actual things that happen.
Yeah, of
and
course.
There's no real historical side to it all. It's just theatre, which is exactly what the place is. It is just a theatre show. But for him, he was saying that, working in there, learning a bit more about it, made him really want to delve into this story. And then he spent the next sort of 20 plus years learning about this case. And his knowledge, just if you just mention a name, he's got so much information from the get-go on whoever it is you're talking about. So when we were throwing out some theories of people, and he just went, yeah, I've heard that one. No, I don't think it's this, that, the other. What I find interesting, I don't know if we'll cover it later, is when we asked Terry who he thought Jack the Ripper was. And he just went, Joe Bloggs down the road. It ain't. Yeah. It's probably none of these people that we thought up as being potential suspects. It's just some Joe Bloggs up the road who no one has heard of or thought of. He's the one that's most likely to have been Jack.
Yeah, and probably, I think that what was the belief that he might have been put in prison for something completely unrelated, and that's why the murder stopped. Or he just didn't want to do it anymore, or he died. Like, there's so many possibilities, which is why this is the most famous unsolved mystery of all time, I think. So Aaron Kosminski was an immigrant from Poland who came over as a child to Whitechapel and would work as a barber. He's quite an interesting character, to say the least. He claimed he could hear voices. He refused food from anyone and would instead opt to eat and drink straight from the gutter. He also suffered from hallucinations and was in and out of asylums for a large portion of his life. So what is the current theory tying him to the murder of Catherine Eddowes and therefore the other women? So some people believe Kosminski has to be the Ripper because on the body of Catherine Eddowes was an alleged shawl, which was then purchased in 2007 by a Ripperologist called Russell Edwards. This is why this story coming back alive now is really interesting, because all of this information came out, I think, in like 2014. It was years and years and years ago, and it's just it shows you the media cycle. The second one person does it because they need those clicks, everyone will do it.
It is regurgitated media.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's all media is nowadays. The shawl had both blood and semen stains, which when you think about it, isn't so strange when you consider that it belonged to a sex worker who was brutally murdered. Those are two bodily fluids you would anticipate to be on that shawl. So DNA testing was done on the shawl, and they found Catherine's DNA, as you would. They traced it to a descendant she has now, but they also found DNA allegedly belonging to Aaron Kosminski. Edwards has come out and said, considering his DNA is on the shawl that was at the murder scene and he was named, I have never considered anyone else to be the Ripper. He then said, we tested the semen left on the shawl. When we matched that, I was dumbfounded that we had actually discovered who Jack the Ripper truly was. Now, this is a man who he's definitively saying this is Jack the Ripper, and he's not going to hear anything else about it, which is why if he listens to this podcast, it's going to be quite funny.
Yeah.
Off the back of this, Karen Miller, the great-great-great-granddaughter of Catherine Eddowes, wants Kosminski officially named, saying it would bring long overdue justice to her family, which I think's fair. She wants closure. She told the Daily Mail, the name Jack the Ripper has become sensationalised. It has gone down in history as this famous character. It has all been about him, this iconic name. But people have forgotten about the victims who did not have justice at the time. I think that's a really fair standpoint. Because it is all about Jack the Ripper. We spoke about it not 10 minutes ago about how people want the theatre of it all. They don't care about the facts, when in reality it was this man going around, and if you really think about it, finding vulnerable women, brutally murdering them and cutting them open.
Yeah.
Like, if you just sit with that thought for a little bit, that's fucked.
Yeah, and obviously, like, we see their post-mortem pictures because that's really all we have of them.
Yeah.
We don't have pictures of them when they were alive and full of life and fun and laughing and all this stuff. We don't really have that. And even a lot of their stories, like when we talk with Terry, a lot of their stories are quite harrowing and not very nice. So we don't necessarily have like such a nicer image of them. And the only images that we do have of them in their death throes, in their death state, looking like that, and so that's the only thing we sort of think of them, and it's, yeah, I suppose it's quite sad to think about it like that. And the whole commercialization of Jack the Ripper is crazy. Like, I don't know if you're aware, but the chip shop that famously in London is called Jack the Chipper. Quite popular. That got I think it was the family of some of the victims that were saying this is indecent and can you not do that?
Absolutely. But I think there's a barber as well, isn't there, called Jack the Clipper?
Yes. So there's loads of like commercial opportunities for that, and you know, when we're talking about the London Dungeon, for instance, they have a rule, to be fair to them, where they don't talk about anything within 100 years of it happening. So there'll be world events that, you know, it could have been 90 years ago. They won't talk about it yet because the idea is it's still too fresh, it's still too raw. I do admire that rule.
No, for sure. I think because we are so far removed from it, it's easier to dramatize and sensationalize and bring into this story. Like, I think we're partially guilty of it because we're doing podcasts of it and sensationalizing it a bit. Like, but then we don't have the 100-year rule. We'll do something from yesterday. Maybe we're just bad people.
Yeah.
So the descendant of Catherine Eddowes is urging authorities to hold an inquest into Kosminski, saying, "We've got the proof. Now we need this inquest to legally name the killer. It would mean a lot to me, to my family, to a lot of people to finally have this crime solved." So, while I completely appreciate that the family would love justice and closure, you cannot name Aaron Kosminski definitively as the killer, and let me tell you for why. Jack the Ripper, as we know him, did not have sexual contact with any of his victims. So why would his semen be on a shawl?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I hadn't thought of that.
None of the other victims. The theory is the going sort of theory is that he had no sexual contact with his victims. They were sex workers, a few of them, some of them weren't. That he would like say, "I want your business." He would lure them to a dark place and kill them. There would be no sexual contact.
Yeah, and it makes sense to think why sex workers were his victims, and it's because he despises them. Why would he use that?
He was a woman hater.
Yes, yeah. I never thought about that. I was literally having a conversation with you yesterday about the idea that, you know, if Aaron Kosminski was Jack the Ripper, it would make sense. Maybe his semen was on one of them. The girls, we even said with Terry, he said that, you know, the girls would have kept a wide berth of Aaron because he was known to be a bit mentally unstable. A lot of the girls were saying, "Stay away from Aaron Kosminski. Trust me, girls, he's not worth your time and effort." So a lot of them wouldn't go near him with a 10-foot barge pole. So, but you have to know, you have to learn that he's bad to hang around with. So it makes sense that maybe he is like some of the sex workers are aware of him, or that he has used them at some point for them to learn that he's actually not worth the time or effort. But actually putting it like that, yes, I remember none of the victims, it seems that he had any sexual intercourse with them.
No, he murdered them. Like, that's all he did, supposedly. Who knows? That's the thing. We don't know. I'm not saying anything definitively, even though I've said definitively that it's not Aaron Kosminski, if you know what I mean.
Yes, but also it's really important to think it's not like he didn't have the opportunity to do this, because the amount of stuff that he's able to do to a lot of these women, he's got more than enough time to do what he likes to them in that way. And the fact that he doesn't,
But then the thing with the Catherine Eddowes murder is that PC Edward Watkins, who discovered her, was in Mitre Square about 5 to 10 minutes before the murder, walked away, came back, and then discovered the body. So this happened quick. Jack the Ripper, he worked quickly. He wouldn't have had time to have sex with her in the middle of a square.
But with Mary Jane Kelly,
and then,
he would.
Yeah, exactly. And then do everything that he did. It just, the timings don't work out, unless it was in a dark corner, of course, which there were many. But here's the thing with mitochondrial DNA, which when it was tested, this is what was tested, it cannot be used to positively ID one individual. It can only be used to rule somebody out because that DNA will belong to thousands of people. So in short, the DNA belonged to a pretty large amount of the population. So to claim it's Kosminski's alone is quite unhelpful.
Well, it's that whole thing where they say that, everybody is somewhere has like Neanderthal DNA and it's like 0.2% of whatever. And it's like, yeah, of course they do, because it all sort of filters down, doesn't it? Somewhere everyone is related to apparently Genghis Khan or even Charlemagne. Everyone
I think it's
has
a
traces
very
of.
a very large percentage of the British population is related to William the Conqueror. Like
Sure.
most of us are.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's no shock to sort of see that they're saying, oh, this DNA is Aaron Kosminski's. Oh, we found someone from over 150 odd years later who is a distant relative of him. And it's like, yeah, but to what extent? How close is that relative?
It belongs to so many people. It's not definitive, and that's the whole point of what I'm trying to get across here. And disprove these articles that you've been reading, because it's been really bothering me. And there were also doubts whether the shawl belonged to Catherine anyway. Like, there's no proof of that it was hers.
Yeah, yeah.
You're just taking this auctioneer at their word and taking this ripperologist at their word. So to definitively say that was Catherine Eddowes' shawl and that it has Kosminski's DNA and he's the Ripper, it would require so many things to align.
Yes.
That in my head it doesn't work. It doesn't work. I'm not saying that Aaron Kosminski is not Jack the Ripper, by the way, because he could well be. But I'm saying that he is not definitely Jack the Ripper. I'm sitting on the fence, so I always win.
Yeah, that's fair. And at the same time, you can say as well, okay, the DNA sample on the shawl is Aaron Kosminski. Yeah, I can go for that. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But it's that whole being able to prove that the shawl is 100% definitely hers, which we can't necessarily prove. There's no receipts of purchase. Like, we're just taking someone's word for it. And I'm sure they have got their own sort of sources to say that it is.
Yeah.
But it's so long ago. How can you definitively prove that it is? And that's the stuff I'd like to see.
I've been scrolling through the comments of all these pages sharing the Kosminski article, and there's some people in there claiming that there wasn't even a shawl discovered on the body and that they just made it up. So people will doubt everything.
Yeah. This episode, of course, as always, is sponsored by Zingari Man. If you would like to smell great, have fantastic skin, then Zingari Man is the place to be when it comes to that. They're selling you premium quality skincare products for men that is, as far as I'm concerned, quite well priced. We've got some of the stuff sent to us, and some of the bottles, they're just beautifully made. It's all well crafted. It looks the part. I've been using the lip balm. I don't know if you got given the lip balm.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I got the lip
obviously,
balm.
We've mentioned before, I'm doing my fitness journey. I'm doing my running every night, and especially in this cold weather, the lip balm is great. I've got a vanilla smelling one, and I whack it on my lips when I go out for my run, and it's just brilliant. I'm loving it. Really enjoying that.
Nice. I'm enjoying the clay bar. My skin has never been smoother. I've never thought to put clay on my face before.
I know. I use the clay bar almost every day after work to clean my face, and it's brilliant. Yeah. It works perfectly. It's really, really good.
As we came on this call, Ryan, you said, have I got a beauty filter on? And it turns out your skin just looks really nice.
It does look really nice. So yeah, if you would like a beautiful face like me, you can head to www.zingariman.com/TWPD podcast and use at the checkout TWPD10 to get 10% off all your purchases. So just say that again, www.zingariman.com/TWPD podcast, code TWPD10 at checkout for 10% off.
Yeah, bosh. And this is the point you raised earlier, Ryan. Because Kosminski was in and out of asylums, hearing voices, experiencing hallucinations, the girls were smart. Like, give them credit. They wouldn't have gone near him. They weren't people that would just be like, oh, it's easy money. Like, they were very street smart. They knew how to keep themselves safe. They were women of the streets, most of them.
Yeah. Even Terry said that one of the ladies, when she'd made up her money, enough money to like have her board for the night, and then she went, I'm going to go back out and get a bit more money. And I think some of the girls were saying like, oh, no, maybe leave it for the night. Like, because they're aware, like,
Yeah.
you're running a risk every time you go out. You run a risk. And they were like, listen, if you don't need to go out tonight, just don't. And she was like, no, I'm going to do it. And that happens to be the night that she was killed. But, yeah, like, you're right. They're all aware of how dangerous this fucking world is. And I think most of them don't necessarily want to be in this world. And this is part of the sad stories. A lot of them,
No.
a lot of them have got, families and they had jobs, but things happen and they become unfortunate.
Yeah. So I think to just assume that these women are blindly going with these potential murderers and have no streets, like, that's discrediting them, and that isn't fair, because they were people as well, as we mentioned earlier. So I think people have been so determined to find the truth, and of course the families want closure, fair enough, that things will be glossed over. It would be deeply unfair to Aaron Kosminski, this man who was deeply troubled, to call him Jack the Ripper, because I don't think that's justice. That's just you picking a theory and sticking your name on it. As for Kosminski, he never got the better of his mental health issues, and he died in an asylum in 1919 at the age of 53. But don't get me wrong, everything should be looked into, and there's still definitely the possibility that Aaron Kosminski could be Jack the Ripper. But there's an equal possibility of it being one of the many other suspects that have been named, just as it could equally be someone who hasn't been named at all. Everything is still very much up in the air. And it's very unhelpful when the media come out and say Jack the Ripper has been definitely named, because he hasn't. And people won't look past the headline. And at the first few comments they'll read to get the synopsis of the article, they'll see Aaron Kosminski's name, they'll put two and two together, and that's what they believe. I think the media have a responsibility to do better, because that's really steering people down a garden path, and it's not fair on the families or on Aaron Kosminski if he was a completely innocent man. So is the case closed? Absolutely not.
Yes, no, it's absolutely not closed yet. It's still wide open. And the thing is as well, it's like the whole... we did an episode not too long ago about Amelia Earhart, and where's Amelia Earhart? Where was she? Where did she die? Where's her plane? All this sort of stuff. And it's one of those... It's a mystery that I don't think anybody truly wants solved, because... when you find out the truth, you'll be underwhelmed. It's not what you think it is. It's not this, it won't be this dramatized piece. It will just be the most mundane, like Terry said. It will just be Joe Bloggs down the street who everybody just happened to know. And there wasn't anything conspiratorial about the guy. Just didn't like women. And then he went crazy about it. Didn't wear a top hat. Didn't have a cape.
No.
It's just this random bloke, probably. And
that's another thing, isn't it, that Terry brought up. If someone was doing these murders and then had to run, and on occasions whoever did the murders had to run because they were sort of rumbled, why would you wear a top hat? That would fly off. You'd be running around like holding your hat. It doesn't make sense.
Terry put forward a really good point when he said about those of sort of upper class going to Whitechapel. It was called slumming it, where people who had a bit more money to them would go out their way to dress down with a flat cap and a jacket, and they would go wander the East End streets to try and get a feel for how this is a bit shirty and a bit dangerous. That's what they did. They enjoyed doing that. If you was to walk around with a top hat and cape, you'd be mugged.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a dodgy place. It was also where the Elephant Man was discovered, which we'd learnt on our tour, which really threw me. I didn't expect to find that out, but...
Yeah, so the idea of him running around in the top hat and cloak, that's absolutely bizarre. And I think even Terry says it comes from one person mentioning a hat.
Yeah, it's just a sensationalised version of it. It's when people link H.H. Holmes to it as well. I think people so desperately want it to be this man who was known to be a brutal murderer.
Yeah.
I also think that's Americans sort of wanting to get involved a little bit.
Yes, no. I quite like the H.H. Holmes theory. It's quite fun, but we've done an episode on H.H. Holmes, and his style of killing was nothing like Jack the Ripper's in any way, shape, or form.
No. So there we have it. If you take away anything from this episode, is that please do not go around telling your friends that Aaron Kosminski is Jack the Ripper because Lab Bible told you that it was.
Yes, that's right. Do you have anyone in your mind that you quite liked? I suppose, remember we spoke to Terry, and he shot down a couple of them. He shot down mine. I really liked Frederick Deeming. I really liked Frederick Deeming as being Jack the Ripper because he's sort of killings sort of maybe stop around the similar time that he goes to Australia. But Terry sort of shot that down. I still kind of have hope in my head that there's something in it, and maybe Terry's wrong, but
I mean, Terry could be wrong. He's not like the bearer of all Jack the Ripper news. I think my theory isn't fun. I think it aligns with Terry, is that it was just a man who was such a woman hater that he committed these brutal murders. And then I think he was arrested for something completely unrelated and died in prison. And that's why the murder stopped, because it all happened in a very short time frame.
It is very short, yeah.
So my theory isn't very, I don't know how to say fun at all. None of this is fun, but not very dramatic.
It's not juicy. It's not, it won't make the headlines.
Exactly. But then if I publish an article saying we'll never know who Jack the Ripper is, no one will read it.
Yes,
because you're not offering them anything.
Yeah, you don't want to have the headline saying, still don't know who Jack the Ripper is.
Yeah, But then I also don't think it's helpful for people to say definitively, and they'll always put it in quotation marks, but no one reads the quotation marks.
Yeah.
In my head, the headline should be, man claims to have found who Jack the Ripper is. Like, that's okay.
Yes.
That's
and also,
fine.
You got to think about it in a way that the way they marketed Jack the Ripper back then, in fact, the whole reason why he's called Jack the Ripper was a newspaper marketing him.
Mm-hmm.
The whole reason we're arguing against, barbershops being Jack the Clipper or a chip shop being called Jack the Chipper, this guy is making money from this. He's selling this story. It is Aaron Kosminski. And what does that come with? That comes with your name out on the papers. It comes with your name out there. We're talking about it because he's saying, oh, I've definitely got the show and I know that it's Aaron Kosminski. It puts his name firmly on this case, where it comes to a point now where you won't be able to talk about Jack the Ripper without talking about his shoal and his theory that it is Aaron Kosminski. So in some respects, it's serving him. So I'm not surprised to see, still being pushed. He's loving the fact that everyone talks about it and talks about him and his DNA and shoal and all this sort of stuff.
I'm sure he completely believes it as well. And as I said at the start, he could be bang on. He could have absolutely nailed this and solved the case. It's just the definitiveness of it I have issue with.
And it's being able to link Aaron to all the other murders, which even we've discussed. There are canonically 5, and I'm still said certain there is only 4.
Oh yeah, it was Elizabeth Stride.
Elizabeth Stride is definitely not a Ripper victim.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. I think it was just her boyfriend. They've had an argument, and the boyfriend's.
Well, this is the interest. Doesn't Catherine Eddowes is murdered on the same night as Elizabeth Stride? Does she not?
Yes, exactly. And we did the walk. So when we did Terry's walk, we go to the area where Elizabeth Stride is killed, and then we walk over to Catherine Eddowes where she's killed. And it was like a 40-minute walk for us. And he was like, "This is supposed to have happened in half an hour each other," and he was like, "It's just not doable."
Especially to get a semen sample on a shawl. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. So yeah, there we go. That's all I've got for you.
Yes, thank you very much for that. We've been talking about it quite a lot. Obviously, if you've seen, we've been putting stuff on social media recent with TikTok and Terry's videos. People are really enjoying those at the moment. They've got a lot to say in the comments, and we're all for it. If you know who Jack the Ripper is, if you have a theory, tell us in the comments below. We want to know who your theories, who your people are. But yeah, we had to respond to it. We had to talk about it.
This news article that came out in 2014 that everyone's decided to fire up again now. I roll my eyes every time.
Yeah, it's crazy. But anyway, that was a bit of a different in the news story. So it's an in the news story, but it's the news of 150 odd years ago. So
yeah. So there you have it. There's our 2 cents on Jack the Ripper and Aaron Kosminski. As Ryan said, if you do have any theories, let us know on any of our socials. That's what people do on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. We've really fired up the engine, so go over there and you get to see our faces talking about it at the same time, which I think is just a treat for the eyes. YouTube, if you are interested, there's a full hour-and-a-half documentary with Terry where we run through all of these theories in great detail. And it is genuinely interesting, if I do say so myself. You can find all of these links on our link tree on any of our socials, so go check us out. But from me, for now, it's goodbye, and from Ryan, it is
goodbye.
See you later.